Hey, movie buffs! Grab your popcorn because we're diving back to 1980 with the British action flick North Sea Hijack, or as some of you might know it, folks, if you're tuning in from the States. This isn't your usual Roger Moore scene. Nope, he's swapped his martini for a rugged beard this time, playing the quirky, cat-loving, and yes, a bit grumpy, Rufus Excalibur Folks. Not your typical hero, but then, this isn't your typical movie. So what's all the fuss about? Imagine this. An oil supply ship in the North Sea gets nabbed by some ruthless mercenaries. These baddies threaten to blow up 2 oil rigs if their ransom demands don't get met. The tensions sky high as government and oil bigwigs try to handle the crisis, but our man Folks, he's got a bold plan up his sleeve. Directed by Andrew V. McLaglen, North Sea Hijack is a roller coaster of action, suspense, and that sprinkle of humour that makes everything better. Sure, Roger Moore's performance is a far cry from his Bond days. It's rougher, tougher, and distinctly lacking martinis, shaken, stirred, or otherwise. Critics back in the day were split. They loved seeing Moore shake off that suave Bond persona for something grittier. They dug his take on the anti-hero Folks. But let's be real, some found the plot a touch predictable and the pace a bit up and down. Despite that, Moore's charm and those edge-of-your-seat scenes drew in fans, giving North Sea Hijack its own cult status over time. Although it wasn't smashing box office records, it did all right, especially in the UK. It's become a gem for those who love a good action flick with a twist, and for the die-hard Roger Moore fans craving to see him flip his Bond image on its head. North Sea Hijack was released on April 7, 1980. The film holds a 43% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and an OK 6.3 out of 10 rating from users of IMDb. Let's chat about a real head-turner from the vaults. We're diving into Bad Timing, a 1980 psychological drama by the legendary Nicholas Roeg. Ever heard of it? Well, strap in, because it stars none other than Art Garfunkel, alongside Theresa Russell, Harvey Keitel, and Denholm Elliott. So, what's the scoop on this film? Picture this: Cold War-era Vienna, a city steeped in mystery, perfect for a tale like this. Art Garfunkel plays Alex Linden, an American psychologist who falls hard for the vibrant and unpredictable Milena, played by Theresa Russell. Their romance, anything but smooth. It's all roller coaster emotions and some pretty intense obsession from Alex. Now, here's where it gets cool, the way the story is told. Bad Timing chops up the timeline, tossing us back and forth in their history, giving us pieces of their love, obsession, and chaos, in a style only Roeg could pull off. It's a wild ride through a psychological landscape, so be prepared for a movie that challenges just as much as it captivates. Back when it first hit the screens, this film stirred the pot big time, with its raw take on relationships and some pretty bold scenes. Critics were split, some applauding its gutsy narrative, while others weren't so keen on its edginess. Over time, though, it's picked up a cult following, and now it's seen as a standout piece in Roeg's career. Art Garfunkel wasn't your typical movie star, making his role in Bad Timing all the more intriguing. He brought a unique, intellectual vibe to Alex, a character tangled up in his own mind. Whether you love him or not in this role, you can't deny he makes it interesting. Released back on April 10, 1980, Bad Timing now has a love it or hate it kind of reputation, rocking a 46% rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a decent 6.9 user score on IMDb. So whether you're a die-hard Roeg fan or just curious about this controversial classic, Bad Timing is one of those films you've got to see to believe. Check it out and see where you stand on this polarizing piece of cinematic history. Hey movie buffs, let's chat about Home Movies, a quirky comedy from way back in 1980, directed by the one and only Brian De Palma. This flick is a real slice of his early days, mixing up satire, comedy, and a dash of the surreal. The story centers on this young guy, Keith Gordon, who plays Denniston Denny Bike, a college kid who's a bit of a mess trying to figure out his crazy family and his life. The twist? His psych class professor, played by the legendary Kirk Douglas, gets them to film their own lives as a sort of therapy. Dr. Tuttle, Douglas's character, is this wild, eccentric guy who's all about using home movies to work through your personal stuff. Home Movies dives into themes like identity, family chaos, and growing up, all sprinkled with De Palma's signature comedic flair and storytelling moves. It's gotten some cult status over the years for its off-the-wall humor and unique approach. Fun fact, this movie was a real launching pad for many of its young crew, including Keith Gordon, who went from playing Denny to becoming a successful director and TV big shot. The whole project was actually part of a class De Palma taught, aimed at giving film students a real hands-on experience in movie making. Pretty cool, huh? Released in 1980, Home Movies got mixed reviews, but it definitely stood out for its bold, experimental vibe. While some critics loved its playful narrative and Kirk Douglas's out-there performance, others felt it was a bit scattered and the jokes didn't always land. Despite the ups and downs in reviews, Home Movies has carved out its own little niche in film history, especially among De Palma fans who dig its unique spot in his lineup of work. So, if you're into films that are a bit off the beaten path, give Home Movies a spin and see what you think. Home Movies was released on April 10, 1980. The film holds a 39% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a mediocre 5 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Hey movie lovers, have you ever dived into the mystical world of Stalker? This gem from 1980 is a Soviet-made sci-fi mind-bender created by the legendary Andrei Tarkovsky. It's loosely based on the book Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, who even helped pen the screenplay. Trust me, it's not your typical fast-paced flick. It's all about the vibe, mixing sci-fi with some really deep philosophical and psychological stuff. So here's the lowdown. The film follows this guide known as the Stalker. He takes two clients, the writer and the professor, on this eerie trek through a place called the Zone. Why go there? Well, there's this room that supposedly grants your deepest, darkest wish if you make it inside. But getting there? It's a wild ride full of invisible dangers and mind games. The Zone itself is a beast, a bizarre blend of bleakness and beauty, almost like it's alive, feeding off the emotions and actions of the group. What makes Stalker super cool is how it messes with your head, raising all these questions about what we want in life, what it means to be human, and other heavy stuff. The way it's shot is pure art. Think long, lingering takes, a super minimalist sound, and these haunting visuals of nature clashing with ruins. Now, get this. Making Stalker was almost as wild as the movie itself. The first batch of footage got completely ruined thanks to a lab mess-up, forcing Tarkovsky to start over. Despite a stretched budget and major delays, Tarkovsky didn't throw in the towel. And thank goodness, because Stalker turned out to be a masterpiece, a must-watch that's rocked the world of cinema. Critics adore Stalker. It holds a perfect 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And movie buffs on IMDb give it an impressive 8.1 out of 10. So if you're in for a film that challenges you, makes you think, and stays with you long after it's over, Stalker is your ticket. Don't miss out on this cinematic treasure. Hey everyone, ready for a spooky throwback? Let's dive into the eerie world of The Watcher in the Woods. This 1980 horror flick is a creepy gem from Disney, starring the legendary Bette Davis alongside Lynn Holly Johnson, Kyle Richards, and Carol Baker. This film is based on Florence Engel Randall's 1976 novel. Here's the scoop. An American family moves into this old English manor, and, you guessed it, weird stuff starts happening. The family's teenage daughter, Jan, encounters all sorts of strange things. Visions, voices, you name it. She figures out these spooky events are connected to the disappearance of a girl named Karen, who just vanished into the woods near their home 30 years ago. The movie is this cool mix of supernatural horror and mystery, setting up a chilling vibe without going too heavy on the gore. It's super atmospheric and has this whole mystery involving interdimensional travel and a deep, dark family secret. Despite some mixed reviews at the time, it's picked up a cult following over the years, especially among folks who dig supernatural thrillers and those who enjoy Disney's darker side. Now, let's talk about the ending. Yeah, it was a bit of a roller coaster. Originally, the film wrapped up with a super complex scene involving mirrors and a portal to another world that left a lot of people scratching their heads. After some not-so-great feedback from test audiences, Disney went back to the drawing board. Fun fact, Bette Davis wasn't just acting, she was right in the thick of it, shaping her character and the script. Her input added a ton of depth to the story, showing just how much a seasoned star can bring to the table, even in a late career performance in a B-movie Disney horror flick. The Watcher in the Woods was released on April 17, 1980. The film holds a 52% rating from critics at Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.1 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Have you ever heard of Death Watch? It's a rad sci-fi flick from 1980, directed by the legendary Bertrand Tavernier. It's all based on The Unsleeping Eye by D.G. Compton. A man does it dive deep into some spooky themes like privacy, voyeurism, and the crazy world of reality TV. Stuff that's super relevant even today. So, here's the scoop. The movie is set in a future where people hardly ever die from illness anymore. Seeing a business opportunity, a crafty TV producer kicks off this show called Death Watch. The star, Catherine Mortenho, played by the amazing Romy Schneider, who's just found out she's got a terminal illness. But here's the twist. She has no clue she's being filmed for the show. Sneaky, right? Enter Roddy, played by Harvey Keitel, who's got cameras literally in his eyes, and he films Catherine without her knowing. As the story rolls on, Roddy starts feeling super guilty about his secret filming gig. Things get even more complicated when he starts falling for Catherine. The whole movie makes you think about how messed up it is to turn personal tragedies into public entertainment. Let me tell you, Death Watch was way ahead of its time with its take on reality TV and the ethical mess of filming real-life pain for kicks. It's not just a film, it's a journey into some deep, philosophical stuff that still hits home today with all the privacy and media ethics debates going on. Now, while some folks thought the movie was a bit slow and not everyone dug the vibe, others were all about its bold themes and performances, especially Romy Schneider smashing it as Catherine. And then there's Bertrand Tavernier's direction, praised for being super thoughtful and stylish, and setting it all against this gritty Glasgow backdrop that just fits perfectly. This flick was talking about reality TV way before everyone and their mum had a show. We're talking way back in 1980. Plus, the whole idea of cameras embedded in Roddy's eyes? That was mind-blowing tech talk back then, making Death Watch a true pioneer movie that was not just about the future of tech, but also tackling big questions about our society. Definitely a must-watch if you're into films that make you think and feel all the feels. Death Watch was released on April 24, 1980. The film holds a 73% positive critics score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.6 out of 10 rating from users of IMDb. Let's dive into the wild world of Sitting Ducks, a 1980 comedy gem that's as quirky as they come. Directed by the one and only Henry Jaglom, this flick is all about laughs, off-the-cuff acting, and a healthy dose of absurdity. Ready for a quick tour? Imagine this. Two small-time crooks, Simon, played by Michael Emile, and Sydney, played by Zach Norman, accidentally pocket a heap of mob money. Realizing they've bitten off more than they can chew, they hit the road in a swiped limo, aiming for paradise. Their journey gets even crazier when they pick up two free-spirited gals, Leona, played by Irene Foster, and Jenny, played by Patrice Townsend. What follows is a chaotic, hilarious road trip as they try dodging the gangsters on their tail. Townsend, in particular, was cited by critics as a revelation. Townsend was Jaglam's wife when Sitting Ducks was made, and critics fell in love with her nearly as much as the director had. Townsend was even referred to by one critic as the Ingrid Bergman for the 80s. That her career fizzled out along with her marriage to Jaglam takes nothing away from the love she received from critics for Sitting Ducks. Henry Jaglam is a master of making it up as he goes, and Sitting Ducks feels as spontaneous as a night out with friends. The dialogue off the cuff and perfectly imperfect, which just adds to the charm of our quirky band of characters. It's less about setups and punchlines, and more about the funny little moments that happen in between. With a shoestring budget and a big heart, Sitting Ducks oozes indie spirit. It's all about the interaction and growth between characters, not flashy plots or effects. Sitting Ducks has carved out its niche among indie film lovers and stands as a testament to Jaglam's unique filmmaking style. It's a cult classic that shows you don't need big bucks to tell a great story. Though Sitting Ducks has fallen into obscurity today, it was met with raves by critics in 1980. Even the ever-grumpy Rex Reed loved this flick. Intrigued? I thought so. Sitting Ducks was released in limited fashion on April 4th, 1980. It has no audience or critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, but it does have a 6.1 out of 10 rating from hardcore Jaglam fans on IMDb. Have you ever caught Heartbeat? It's this cool drama from 1980 that dives deep into the lives of Jack Kerouac, Neil Cassidy, and Carolyn Cassidy back in the buzzing beat generation of the 50s and 60s. It's all about their intertwined lives and how they rocked the cultural boat during their time. The film is directed by John Byram and features an awesome cast with Nick Nolte rocking the role of Neil Cassidy, Sissy Spacek as Carolyn Cassidy, and John Hurd stepping into the shoes of Jack Kerouac. These three stir up quite the storm on screen, showing us the tough tensions and tight bonds that fueled their wild lives and groundbreaking writings. Heartbeat really captures the rebellious spirit that defined the Beat generation, showcasing its powerful impact on American lit and culture. Although the critics were split, with some not vibing with its flow and others praising Nick and Sissy's performances, it's definitely got its charm. Now, it didn't exactly smash the box office, and it stayed kinda under the radar. But if you're into beat literature or just curious about that iconic era, this movie's got a cult following for a reason. Plus, did you know? Carolyn Cassidy herself jumped back into acting with this film after a long break. Her authentic touch really brings something special to the movie, making it a more genuine snapshot of those times. So, if you've got a thing for the beats or love diving into different cultural eras, Heartbeat might just be your next must-watch. Check it out and experience a slice of literary history like never before. Heartbeat was released on April 25th, 1980. The film holds 20% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb. Hey, movie buffs! If you're into wild, off-the-rails comedies, you've got to check out Where the Buffalo Roam from 1980. This flick is a semi-biographical whirlwind directed by Art Linson, drenched in the crazy antics and gonzo journalism of the legendary Hunter S. Thompson. Bill Murray steps into Thompson's shoes alongside Peter Boyle, who plays his lawyer buddy, Oscar Zeta Acosta, though he's got the alias Carl Laszlo. So what's it about? Imagine diving headfirst into Thompson's chaotic experiences, like his run-ins at the Super Bowl and the 1972 presidential campaign. It's all surreal, anarchic, and yes, fueled by a fair share of drugs. It's a series of vignettes that'll either leave you scratching your head or craving more. Now let's talk reception. When Where the Buffalo Roam hit the theatres, it was a mixed bag. People loved Bill Murray's crazy good energy and eccentric portrayal of Thompson. But not everyone was sold on the movie's jumpy storytelling and felt it missed nailing Thompson's vibe just right. Despite its quirks, this film has carved out its own cult following, particularly among Thompson enthusiasts. Oh, and a fun fact before you run off to watch, Bill Murray got into character by hanging out with Thompson himself, which, as you can imagine, led to some pretty bizarre stories and legendary antics. Plus, the soundtrack's a treat with Neil Young's original tunes and classic rock tracks from Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, and The Temptations. Though, a heads up, some of these cool tunes caused a heap of licensing drama, making it tough to find Where the Buffalo Roam on DVD or streaming for ages. So, if you're up for a film that tries to bottle up Hunter S. Thompson's wild spirit, give Where the Buffalo Roam a shot. It's an early take on a complex icon wrapped up in a package of pure cinematic chaos. Where the Buffalo Roam was released April 25th, 1980. The film holds a 19% critics score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.5 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Hey movie buffs, dive into the drama of Hide in Plain Sight, a gripping film directed by and starring the legendary James Caan. This movie takes you into the real-life rollercoaster of government secrets and the lengths one father will go to reunite with his family. The story kicks off with Thomas Hacklin Jr., a regular guy from Buffalo, New York. His world is turned upside down when his ex-wife and kids disappear without a trace. Turns out they're tucked away in the Federal Witness Protection Program thanks to her new husband's shady dealings. As Hacklin fights to find his children, he's up against a wall of government secrecy that seems impenetrable. Hide in Plain Sight isn't just any drama. It wrestles with big questions, like how far should the government go to protect someone at the expense of someone else's rights? It's a deep dive into the emotional wreckage left behind when families get caught in the crossfire of the justice system. Critics gave a big thumbs up to James Caan for both his acting and his directorial debut. Though it wasn't a box office hit, the film has been praised for its thoughtful and intense portrayal of a dad's fight against the odds. What makes this film stand out? It's inspired by the true story of Tom Leonard, whose life turned into a waiting game when his ex-wife and kids vanished into witness protection. Moved by Leonard's plight, Caan put his heart into making this film to shed light on the struggles of families split by circumstances beyond their control. James Caan passed up on several meatier roles, like the lead in Kramer vs. Kramer and an unspecified role in Apocalypse Now, to direct this heartfelt story. Hide in Plain Sight was released on March 21st, 1980. The film holds an 80% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. Leo and Loree is a 1980 romantic comedy drama directed by Jerry Paris and produced by actor Leonard Nimoy. It stars Donnie Most as Leo and Linda Pearl as Loree, portraying a young couple trying to make it in Hollywood. The film follows their journey as they navigate the ups and downs of pursuing an acting career, with each facing various challenges and misunderstandings along the way. The story captures the strains on their relationship as they struggle with professional jealousy, financial insecurity, and the intense competition in show business. Leo and Loree was 4 years in the making. The film was conceived in Ron Howard's backyard during a party with Happy Days co-stars. 4 years later, Howard stepped aside as director in favour of James Paris, and the film received a green light. Leo and Loree attempted to shed light on the real-life pressures faced by aspiring actors, but didn't resonate with audiences and received limited critical praise. Both leads, better known for their television roles, Most from Happy Days and Pearl from Matlock, were lauded for their earnest performances. But the film itself struggled at the box office and quickly faded from public attention. Notably, critic Don Lechman was particularly hard on star Donnie Most, using his column on film to question Most's star power, and wrote that the actor doesn't excite. Leo and Loree was released on April 25, 1980. The film has no score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.1 out of 10 on IMDb. Leo and Loree is available to rent on YouTube.